I finally moved into my dream house and invited my whole family to visit. Not a single one came. Everyone had an excuse. While I sat alone unpacking boxes, my dad texted, "We need to talk about the house." But what I replied left them all stunned. It was supposed to be the most triumphant night of my life, the culmination of a decade of relentless sacrifice. Instead, I sat alone in my beautiful new house, surrounded by untouched welcome baskets and cooling food, while a chilling text from my own father declared, "We need to talk about the house." The betrayal, the sheer disbelief hit me like a physical blow. My name is Justine and I'm 33 years old. Just last month, after saving every single penny for what felt like an eternity, I finally held the keys to my dream home. The moment they were in my hand, I sent out invitations to my entire family for a housewarming dinner. I spent days pouring my heart into preparing for them, making guest rooms perfect, cooking their favorite dishes, meticulously hanging family photos, dreaming of laughter and connection filling these new walls. But as Saturday evening wore on, my excitement curdled into confusion, then a crushing heartbreak. Not a single person showed up. Growing up, my world was tiny and cramped. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town, my parents, Thomas and Linda, constantly hustling, working multiple jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. My mom waitressed in the mornings and cleaned offices at night. My dad jumped between construction and security gigs, his work as unpredictable as the seasons. My younger siblings, Natalie and Adam, shared the second bedroom, leaving me to sleep on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 17. Money wasn't just tight. It was a constant, suffocating presence. I can still picture my mom stretching a single pound of ground beef across 3 meals, each time adding more beans, less meat. And my dad? He'd track every kilowatt on the electric bill, his sigh heavy with financial worries as he'd snap off a forgotten light, muttering, "Electricity costs money we don't have." But there were Sundays. Once a month, Mom would coax Dad into borrowing his brother's car, and we'd embark on these magical drives through the affluent neighborhoods across town. I'd press my face against the window, utterly captivated by those streets, by the grand, beautiful houses. I'd pick out my favorites, imagining the lives inside. "Look at that one with the red door, Mom," I'd exclaim, pointing to a craftsman-style house with a wide front porch, overflowing with hanging flower baskets. Mom would smile, her eyes sparkling. "That one's gorgeous, Justine. All those windows would let in so much natural light." But Dad's response was always the same, a cold splash of reality. "People like us don't own houses like that," he'd say, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Best not to fill your head with impossible dreams." Those words, meant to discourage, instead ignited a fire in me. They weren't a barrier, they were a challenge. By 15, I'd convinced the owner of a local diner to hire me on weekends and after school. Every dollar I earned went into a lockbox hidden under my pull-out bed. When my parents eventually found out, they expected me to contribute to household expenses, and I did, but I still managed to squirrel away half of every paycheck for my future. High school graduation brought a seismic shift. One April afternoon, my guidance counselor, Mrs. Garner, practically vibrated with excitement. "Justine, have you checked your email today?" she asked, barely containing herself. I hadn't. Internet at home was another luxury we couldn't afford. When she showed me the scholarship notification on her computer screen, I burst into tears. A full ride to State University, including housing. I was going to be the first person in my family to attend college. I expected a family celebration, a moment of shared joy. Mom, bless her heart, hugged me tight, whispering, "I always knew you were special." Dad, however, offered a brief nod of pride, quickly replaced by his usual practicality. "College is expensive, even with scholarships. Books, supplies, living expenses. Don't get too big for your boots." Natalie, 14 at the time, seemed genuinely happy. Adam, only 12, was too young to grasp the monumental significance. College was a crucible. The scholarship covered tuition and basic housing, but little else. I worked at the campus bookstore between classes, waited tables at a restaurant on weekends. Sleep became a forgotten luxury. But I maintained my grades and I continued to save. The cultural chasm was even harder than the financial strain. Many of my classmates came from affluent families, casually mentioning European vacations, their parents doctors, lawyers, executives. I learned to navigate conversations carefully, sharing almost nothing about my background, feeling the stark divide between our worlds. When I called home, conversations grew increasingly strained. Mom craved every detail of campus life, living vicariously. Dad's questions primarily revolved around costs and whether my jobs were interfering with my studies. Natalie and Adam, on the other hand, spoke less and less. Our shared childhood experiences, once a strong bond, now seemed insufficient to bridge the widening gap. Graduation day. For grueling years later, I scanned the audience repeatedly, my heart aching for the sight of my whole family among the proud parents and siblings. Only Mom appeared, sitting alone, wearing a dress I knew she'd saved months to purchase. "Where is everyone?" I asked when we finally met after the ceremony. "Your father picked up an extra shift," she explained, her eyes avoiding mine. "They're short-handed. Natalie has a school project due Monday, and Adam wasn't feeling well." I nodded, swallowing a bitter disappointment that felt too familiar. We took pictures, just the two of us, my hard-earned diploma a testament to my solo journey. Later, I realized this day wasn't an anomaly. It was the beginning of a pattern. My achievements, no matter how significant to me, would often be met with minimal acknowledgement from most of my family. Their absence at graduation was just the start. Armed with my marketing degree, I landed an entry-level position at Blake & Associates, a mid-sized marketing firm downtown. The starting salary wasn't much, but the growth potential was real. I found a studio apartment, barely 400 square feet, a 20-minute bus ride from the office. The kitchenette was so small I could touch opposite counters without fully extending my arms. But it was mine, and the rent allowed me to continue my disciplined saving. My financial plan was meticulous, practically a sacred text. 50% for essential expenses, 30% for savings, specifically earmarked for a future home, and 20% for everything else, including the rare movie or dinner out. I tracked every single dollar on a spreadsheet, watching my house fund grow incrementally. "You need to live a little," my colleague Samantha would often say, waving concert tickets. "You're only young once." She wasn't wrong, but my focus remained unwavering. The memory of my father's words about impossible dreams wasn't just a memory. It was the fuel for my determination. I wasn't just saving for a house. I was proving something to myself and to them. Professional growth came steadily. By my second year, I was promoted to account manager. Year 4 brought another promotion to senior account manager. The accompanying salary increases went directly into my house fund, not into upgrading my living situation. On weekends and evenings, I built a side business managing social media accounts for local small businesses. What started as a single client, the florist around the corner from my apartment, expanded to 8 regular accounts. This additional income accelerated my savings significantly, truly putting my dream within reach. My personal life, however, took a back seat. Friends eventually stopped inviting me to costly outings, already knowing my likely response. My apartment remained sparsely furnished with second-hand items. Vacations were non-existent. Even holidays became working days as I leveraged the demand for social media coverage during breaks. During my 3rd year at the firm, I met Marcus in the elevator. He worked for the legal office 2 floors above ours, his smile bright against his dark blue suit, as he asked about the stack of social media strategy documents I was balancing. Our relationship developed slowly. Coffee dates turned to dinner, movies, and eventually weekends together. He was patient with my schedule and incredibly supportive of my goals, at least initially. 6 months in, he suggested moving in together to save on rent. "We could get a nicer place for less than we're paying separately," he reasoned. "You'd reach your house fund goal even faster." The logic was sound, but something held me back. Perhaps it was the fear of merging my carefully controlled financial world with someone else's, or a worry that my savings discipline would relax with a partner. Whatever the reason, I declined, and Marcus, with grace, accepted my decision. But 3 years into our relationship, the cracks began to show. Marcus started calling my saving habits an obsession. Arguments erupted over declined invitations to friends' destination weddings, and my reluctance to spend on experiences he valued deeply. "There's more to life than preparing for a future that might never come," he said during our final painful fight. "You're missing everything that's happening right now." The breakup was agonizing, but it was also clarifying. I realized I wasn't willing to compromise on my goal, not even for love. The house wasn't just physical property. It was tangible proof that people like us could indeed achieve what my father thought impossible. My family's reactions to my career progression remained complicated. Mom expressed genuine pride in my professional accomplishments, but seemed increasingly uncomfortable during her infrequent visits to my apartments. "This neighborhood is so different from ours," she'd comment, glancing nervously at the young professionals entering the coffee shop below my second apartment. Dad flat out refused to visit at all. "Downtown is too fancy for me," he'd say when invited. "Too many one-way streets and no place to park." My relationship with my siblings shifted too. Adam, now working irregularly in construction like Dad, called primarily when he needed money. My offers to help with budgeting or job applications were met with defensiveness. "Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy," he snapped when I suggested a trade certification program. Natalie married young to her high school boyfriend and had 2 children in quick succession. Our conversations revolved exclusively around her kids, with little interest expressed in my life. When I mentioned my growing house fund after a particularly good quarter with my side business, she changed the subject abruptly. 8 years into my career, a revelation struck me during a client meeting. The CEO of a local startup mentioned purchasing her first investment property at 34. "The perfect time to build wealth," she said casually, "is when you have income, but before you have major family obligations." At 32, I realized my timeline could be accelerated. My savings, combined with my excellent credit score and steady income from both my primary job and side business, put home ownership within reach 2 years earlier than planned. That evening, I contacted a mortgage broker for a preliminary consultation. The meeting with my mortgage broker, James, confirmed what I suspected. 8 years of disciplined saving and career advancement had positioned me perfectly for homeownership. My pre-approval amount exceeded my expectations, though I remained committed to staying below that maximum to maintain financial flexibility. "You've done the hard part already," James said, reviewing my impeccable credit report and substantial down payment. "Most first-time buyers struggle with the saving phase. You're in an enviable position." His words validated years of sacrifices. All those declined invitations, all those sparse furnishings in my series of small apartments. The next step was finding a realtor. Through a work connection, I met Kelly, a straight-talking agent specializing in first-time buyers. Our initial conversations set clear parameters: craftsman or colonial style, minimum of 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office, an established neighborhood with character, and a reasonable commute downtown. "I've been visualizing this house for 15 years, I explained to Kelly. "I'll know it when I see it, but these are my non-negotiables." The house hunting process proved more emotionally taxing than anticipated. Over 3 months, we viewed 47 properties. Some came close to my vision but had fatal flaws. Water damage concealed by fresh paint, outdated electrical systems that would require costly updates, or locations that would add an hour to my daily commute. By property 38, fatigue had set in. "Maybe I'm being too picky," I confessed to Kelly after leaving a nearly perfect colonial with a compromised foundation. "Perhaps I should adjust my expectations." "The right house is worth waiting for," Kelly assured me, "especially for someone who's been as patient and purposeful as you have been." Property 42 changed everything. Driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district, I spotted it before Kelly even slowed the car. A craftsman bungalow with a deep front porch, original woodwork, and a red door. My heart raced as we parked. "This looks promising," Kelly said, noting my expression. The interior exceeded my wildest expectations. Original hardwood floors throughout, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace, a renovated kitchen that respected the home's character while offering modern functionality. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with angular ceilings and dormer windows created perfect spaces for guests and a home office. Standing in the master bedroom, sunlight streaming through mullioned windows onto wide plank floors, I felt an unexpected wave of emotion wash over me. "This is it," I whispered, running my hand along the century-old doorframe. "This feels like coming home to a place I've never been before." Kelly nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but given the location and condition, it's fair. If you're serious, we should move quickly. Properties in this neighborhood typically receive multiple offers. That night, I barely slept, running numbers and visualizing my furniture in those sunlit rooms. By morning, my decision was made. We submitted an offer at asking price with a personal letter to the owners, explaining why their house would be the perfect first home for a first-generation homebuyer. Competition was fierce. 3 other offers came in, one above asking price. The waiting period was excruciating. I threw myself into work, trying not to check my phone every 5 minutes for news from Kelly. 3 days later, my offer was accepted. The owners, an older couple downsizing to be closer to grandchildren, had been deeply touched by my letter. They chose my offer despite the higher competing bid, wanting their beloved home to go to someone who would truly appreciate its character. The loan process brought its own unexpected complications. My self-employment income from the side business, while substantial, created documentation challenges. The underwriter requested additional verification, extending the closing timeline by 2 weeks. "This is normal for self-employed borrowers," James reassured me. "Your finances are solid. It's just a matter of documenting everything properly." Those 2 weeks felt endless. A competing buyer remained interested, ready to step in if my financing fell through. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, and client contracts, assembling a comprehensive financial portrait to satisfy the underwriter. Finally, approval came through. Closing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I signed countless documents, initialed dozens of pages, and then at long last received the keys to my first home. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of a journey that began with those Sunday drives through neighborhoods exactly like this one. After the closing, I asked for time alone in the empty house. Walking from room to room, I allowed the significance to sink in. In the living room, I sat on the floor and cried tears of accomplishment, relief, and vindication. The daughter of renters who couldn't afford to leave lights on now owned a piece of the American dream that had once seemed so unattainable. Taking photos of each room, I created a family group text, something I rarely did. "Just closed on my first house," I typed, my fingers trembling with excitement. "Can't wait for you all to visit and help christen it properly. Thinking of hosting a family dinner 2 weeks from Saturday once I'm settled. Save the date." The responses trickled in slowly. Mom sent a "congratulations." Natalie replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Adam didn't respond at all. Dad finally wrote, "Houses like that have high maintenance costs. Hope you budgeted for repairs." The tepid reaction stung, but it couldn't diminish my accomplishment. Standing in what would become my bedroom, watching sunset light paint the walls amber, I made a promise to myself. This house would become a home filled with warmth and welcome, regardless of my family's ability to share in my joy. The 2 weeks between closing and my planned family gathering flew by in a whirlwind of activity. I arranged for my meager apartment furnishings to be moved quickly, immediately realizing how inadequate they looked in the larger space. The living room sofa that had dominated my apartment barely filled a corner of the new space. My dining table for 2 seemed lost in the proper dining room. "One room at a time," I reminded myself, prioritizing essential spaces. I found a second-hand dining table that could seat 8, perfect for the family dinner I was planning. A quick coat of paint refreshed it, and new chairs from a budget-friendly store completed the set. With basic furnishings in place, I turned my attention to preparing for my family's first visit. This wasn't just about showing off my new home. It was an opportunity to reconnect, to bridge the growing distance between us. Perhaps seeing my success in person would help them understand my choices and sacrifices. The guest room for my parents received special attention. I splurged on a new mattress and quality bedding, knowing Dad's back problems often made sleeping away from home difficult. The second bedroom was prepared for Natalie, her husband Troy, and their children, with an air mattress set up for the kids alongside the queen bed. The small third bedroom, eventually planned as my home office, would accommodate Adam. Shopping for groceries, I filled my cart with ingredients for everyone's favorites. Dad's love for pot roast with carrots and potatoes, Mom's weakness for blueberry cobbler, Natalie's preference for Caesar salad, Adam's fondness for buffalo chicken dip as an appetizer. The bill at checkout made me wince, but this celebration warranted the expense. Throughout the house, I added thoughtful touches. A photo wall in the hallway displayed family pictures spanning decades. Mom and Dad on their wedding day, Natalie and Adam as toddlers splashing in a kiddie pool, all four of us at a rare beach vacation when I was 12. Recent photos were noticeably absent, a reality I hoped this visit might begin to change. Welcome baskets awaited each family member. For Mom, a gardening book and seed packets for the backyard plot we could plan together. For Dad, a custom keychain with the house address, symbolizing his welcome anytime. For Natalie's kids, age-appropriate books and coloring supplies. For Adam, a local brewery gift card for the tour I thought we might take together. 1 week before the planned dinner, I sent formal invitations with detailed directions, parking information, and a warm note expressing how meaningful their presence would be. Initial responses seemed positive. Mom called asking what she could bring. Just yourselves, I assured her. Everything else is taken care of. Natalie texted that Troy had arranged time off work, and they were looking forward to seeing the new place. Adam responded with a brief, "I'll be there," that nonetheless lifted my spirits. Dad remained silent, but Mom assured me they would drive together. Then 3 days before the dinner the shift began. Natalie called first. "Justine, I'm so sorry, but Emma has come down with an ear infection. The pediatrician says she shouldn't travel this weekend. Could Troy stay with Emma while you and Jack come?" I suggested, trying desperately to salvage part of the visit. Troy's mother was counting on us visiting her Sunday, so he needs to take Jack there while I stay with Emma, she explained, her excuse growing more complicated. "We'll definitely come another weekend once everyone's healthy." I accepted her explanation, disappointment settling in my stomach. That evening Adam texted, "Boss just scheduled me for Saturday. Someone called out and I need the hours. Sorry, sis." This felt less believable. Adam rarely picked up extra shifts, frequently complaining about his manager's last-minute scheduling. Still, challenging him would only create tension. I responded with understanding and an offer to reschedule. Thursday brought Mom's call, the one I'd been dreading after the pattern established by my siblings. "Your father's back is acting up something terrible," she began, her voice carrying familiar notes of apology. "He can barely make it from the bedroom to the kitchen today. There's no way he could sit in the car for an hour each way." "I could come pick you up," I offered, desperation edging into my voice. "Or just you could come, and we could FaceTime Dad during dinner." "You know he wouldn't want me traveling alone," she replied. "And he'd feel terrible being left out completely. Better to postpone until he's feeling stronger." By Friday afternoon, my family dinner for 6 had dwindled to a party of 1. I stood in my kitchen surrounded by groceries for meals no one would eat, staring at the dining table set with new plates and carefully folded napkins. The house that had felt so full of potential now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling each family member, offering alternative dates, different arrangements, anything to salvage the gathering. Voicemails and unanswered texts multiplied. Only Mom responded, reiterating Dad's health concerns and promising they'd visit soon. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, the spring sunshine seeming to mock my solitude. The welcome baskets sat untouched on guest beds that would remain unslept in. I moved mechanically through the day, putting away perishable groceries and covering prepared dishes with plastic wrap. By afternoon, I gave up pretense and changed from my carefully selected outfit back into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt. Settling on the living room floor surrounded by still unpacked boxes, I began the work of organizing books and kitchenware, trying to focus on the physical task rather than the emotional weight pressing against my chest. The house that was supposed to be filled with family laughter remained quiet except for the occasional ping of my phone, work emails and social media notifications, but nothing from my family. The silence from them spoke volumes, particularly from Dad, who hadn't directly acknowledged my invitation or sent his regrets. As evening approached, I ordered a pizza, lacking the heart to cook any of the special meals planned. Sitting cross-legged on the floor among half-unpacked boxes, I scrolled through design websites on my tablet, forcing myself to focus on future plans rather than present disappointment. That's when Dad's text finally arrived, the notification causing my heart to leap with momentary hope. "We need to talk about the house," was all it said. No congratulations, no apology for missing the dinner. Just 7 words that somehow carried an ominous weight. My fingers hovered over the phone screen. Pizza forgotten beside me. Dad rarely texted, preferring brief phone calls or having Mom relay messages. This direct communication suggested a significance I couldn't ignore. Despite the late hour, I called immediately, my heart pounding. He answered on the second ring, his gruff hello lacking any warmth. "Dad, I got your text. Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the anxiety building in my chest. "Your mother's upset," he began without preamble. "Been crying on and off since you sent those house pictures." Confusion washed over me. "Crying? Why? Is she okay?" "No, Justine. She's not okay." His voice hardened. "None of us are okay with this show you're putting on." Show asterisk? I echoed, genuinely bewildered. "What are you talking about?" "This fancy house in that hoity-toity neighborhood. The dinner invitation like you're some kind of hostess from those magazines your mother used to read. It's not you, Justine. At least not the you we raised." The accusation landed like a physical blow. I sank back against an unopened box, struggling to process his words. "Dad, I've worked for this house for years. You know that. I saved every penny, worked multiple jobs. This isn't some show. It's the result of a decade of hard work." "Hard work?" He scoffed. "Is that what you call it when you turn your back on your family? When you stop coming to Sunday dinners because you're too busy with your office job and side hustle? When you move to neighborhoods where your own father feels uncomfortable visiting?" Each question increased in volume until he was nearly shouting. In the background, I could hear Mom's muffled voice urging him to calm down. "I never turned my back on anyone," I protested, my own voice rising to match his intensity. "I invited everyone here this weekend. I prepared rooms for each of you. Cooked all your favorite foods. Because we don't belong in a house like that," he exploded. "Your mother took one look at those hardwood floors and fancy kitchen and knew she'd be afraid to touch anything. Adam said he felt sick seeing those pictures, knowing he'll never afford anything close to that on construction wages. Even Natalie felt it. Said you were showing off, making it clear how far you've moved beyond us." Tears sprang to my eyes. His words cut deeper than he could possibly know. "That was never my intention. I wanted to share this with you, not make anyone feel bad." "Well, you failed," he stated flatly. "Your mother thinks you're embarrassed by where you came from, that you bought this house to escape your roots, to escape us." "That's not true," I whispered, though doubt began creeping in. Had I unconsciously chosen a neighborhood so different from my childhood home as a form of rejection? "Isn't it?" Dad continued. "When was the last time you brought any of those work friends to meet us? When was the last time you talked about your family at that fancy office? Do your colleagues even know your father works construction and your mother cleans houses?" The question struck nerves I didn't realize were exposed. I had compartmentalized my life, keeping my background separate from my professional world. Not from shame, I told myself, but from a desire to be judged on my own merits rather than my origins. "I'm proud of where I came from," I insisted, my voice breaking. "Everything I've accomplished is because of what you and Mom taught me about work ethic and persistence." "Save it," Dad interrupted. "Actions speak louder than words, and your actions say you're building a life that doesn't include us. This house is just the final proof." Mom's voice grew louder in the background, and Dad must have partially covered the phone because their exchange became muffled. When he returned, his tone had shifted from anger to something more resigned. "Your mother wants me to tell you she loves you no matter what," he said mechanically. "But I need to be straight with you, Justine. This changes things between us. You keep flaunting your success, making the rest of us feel small. There's going to be consequences for our relationship." "Consequences?" I repeated, disbelief coloring my tone. "Are you actually threatening to cut me off because I bought a house? Because I succeeded?" "Call it what you want," he replied coldly. "Just know that choices have consequences. Always have." The call ended abruptly, leaving me in stunned silence. The pizza congealed in its box, forgotten. The emptiness of the house suddenly felt oppressive rather than peaceful. Each room, a testament to what I had supposedly chosen over my family. I moved through the rooms in a daze, touching the walls, the door frames, the countertops that had brought me such joy just days earlier. Each beautiful feature now felt tainted by my father's accusations. The guest rooms mocked me with their emptiness, the welcome baskets pathetic in their optimism. In the master bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Designer jeans and a casual top that cost more than my father likely spent on clothes in a year. When had that happened? When had I started spending $80 on shirts without blinking? When I grew up watching my mother darn socks rather than replace them? Had success changed me in ways I hadn't recognized? Had I, in my determination to rise above financial struggle, inadvertently elevated myself away from the people who had shaped me? These questions circled like vultures as I sank onto the edge of my bed. The night stretched endlessly before me, a dark canvas for painful self-examination. Sleep evaded me completely as I replayed years of interactions, searching for the moment when advancement became alienation in my family's eyes. By dawn, my eyes were swollen from tears, but my mind had achieved a clarity that had been missing. The house wasn't the problem. My success wasn't the problem. The real issue ran deeper, rooted in complex family dynamics and expectations that I had both fulfilled and defied. Morning light filtered through curtainless windows, casting long shadows across my bedroom floor. My night of painful reflection had crystallized something important. I couldn't control my family's reactions, but I could control my response. This realization felt simultaneously liberating and terrifying. After a shower and coffee, I sat at my new dining table with my laptop open. The words didn't come easily, but they came honestly. I drafted, deleted, and redrafted my response multiple times. This wasn't just a reply to Dad's accusations. It was a declaration of boundaries I should have established years ago. The final text was longer than I typically sent, but each word felt necessary. Dad, Mom, Natalie, and Adam, I began. I've spent the night thinking about our conversation and the feelings behind your absence yesterday. This is difficult to write, but I need you to hear me. First, I love you all deeply. Nothing about my career path or this house purchase changes that. You are my roots, my foundation. The work ethic that built this life came directly from watching Dad work double shifts and Mom juggle multiple jobs. Every sacrifice you made for us kids taught me the value of persistence. But loving you doesn't mean I must diminish myself to make you comfortable. My success isn't a rejection of my upbringing. It's the fulfillment of the potential you nurtured. When I look at this house, I don't see an escape from my past. I see the physical manifestation of lessons you taught me. I won't apologize for working hard and achieving goals. I won't pretend I haven't earned this to soothe feelings of inadequacy I never created or intended. Most importantly, I won't sell this house or downplay my accomplishments to maintain relationships that should be strengthened, not threatened by my success. The door to this home will always be open to each of you whenever you're ready to walk through it without resentment or judgment. I've created spaces here specifically with you in mind. A guest room with the firm mattress Dad needs for his back. A backyard where Mom and I could garden together. Local breweries I thought Adam might enjoy exploring with me. I'm not choosing this house over family. I'm choosing to believe we can grow together rather than grow apart. I'm choosing to believe that love isn't diminished by square footage or mortgage payments. This door will always be open to you, but I won't close it on my dreams. I hope someday you'll understand that my success honors, rather than rejects, everything you've given me. Love always, Justine. My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes. This message would either begin healing or deepen the rift. There would be no middle ground. Finally, I pressed send and set my phone aside, deliberately turning my attention to unpacking books onto the built-in shelves. The responses came in stages, each revealing something profound about my relationships. Mom called first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad about your accomplishments, she began. I'm proud of you, Justine. Always have been. It's just hard watching you create a life so different from what I could provide. You provided everything that matters, Mom, I replied gently. Love, values, strength. The rest is just stuff. Our conversation lasted nearly an hour, the first truly honest exchange we'd had in years. She admitted feeling intimidated by my career and financial stability, confessing that my father's reaction stemmed partly from his own sense of failure. He wanted so much more for us than what he could achieve, she explained. Seeing you accomplish what he couldn't, it's complicated for him. I understand that, I acknowledged. But I need him to see that my success is his success too. Everything I am began with you both. We ended the call with tentative plans for her to visit alone the following weekend. Just us girls, she suggested. Your father needs more time. Natalie texted next, her message unexpectedly vulnerable. I lied about Emma being sick. The truth is I was jealous and ashamed. Troy and I can barely afford our apartment rent, and seeing your beautiful house made me feel like a failure. I'm sorry. Your message made me cry. Can we start over? I called her immediately, and our conversation revealed years of competitive feelings I'd never recognized. As the older sister who seemingly did everything right, I represented a standard she felt she couldn't meet. My achievements had unwittingly become a measuring stick against which she judged her own life choices. I've never thought less of your choices, I assured her. You have beautiful children and a loving marriage. Those are successes that can't be measured in dollar signs or property deeds. We ended the call with plans for a proper visit the following month, once she'd worked through some of her complicated feelings. Adam maintained radio silence for 3 days before sending a terse text. Need time to process. Not ready to talk yet. It was the most honest communication we'd had in years, and I respected his boundary without pushing for more. Dad's response was the most painful. A week passed with no word. Then a birthday card arrived in the mail, containing a gift card to a home improvement store. No note accompanied it, but the choice of gift acknowledged my new homeowner status. A small step toward acceptance. The weeks that followed brought a mix of sadness and liberation. I missed the easy family relationships I'd once taken for granted, but there was also relief in no longer maintaining the fiction that everything was fine between us. The honest exchanges, however painful, felt like clearing stagnant air. I threw myself into making the house truly mine. Walls were painted, furniture arranged and rearranged, window treatments installed. Each decision reflected my taste and needs rather than considerations of what others might think, a freedom I hadn't previously allowed myself. When a colleague asked about my weekend plans and I mentioned renovating the guest bathroom, she asked casually, "Will your family be visiting to see the improvements?" For the first time, I answered without evasion or sugarcoating. We're working through some complicated feelings about my move. Family dynamics are challenging sometimes, but we're figuring it out step by step. Her knowing nod and shared story of similar struggles with her own relatives made me realize how universal these experiences were. The pretense of perfect family harmony I'd maintained had only isolated me further. This revelation sparked another important decision. I joined a first-generation professionals networking group, connecting with others navigating the complicated territory between their roots and their achievements. Their stories of similar family tensions helped me understand I wasn't alone in these struggles. 3 months after the failed family dinner, I hosted my first real gathering in the new house. Not for family, but for friends and colleagues who had supported my journey. As glasses clinked and laughter filled rooms that had once echoed with emptiness, I felt the house transforming from a symbol of division to one of new beginnings. 6 months after moving in, my house finally felt like home. The living room walls, once bare, now displayed a mixture of local art and personal photographs. The kitchen had become my weekend sanctuary, where I experimented with recipes far more ambitious than anything I'd attempted in my apartment's minimal cooking space. The garden beds, dormant when I purchased the property, now burst with herbs and flowers, the result of weekend labor that left dirt under my fingernails and satisfaction in my heart. On a warm Saturday evening, my dining room hosted its first proper dinner party. 8 people gathered around the table that had sat empty that first weekend. Colleagues from work, neighbors from down the street, and friends from my first-generation professionals group. Wine flowed, conversation bounced between topics, and laughter rang through rooms that had once felt cavernous in their emptiness. "To Justine," toasted Diane from next door, raising her glass, "who not only restored this beautiful old house, but filled it with warmth and welcome." The words touched me deeply. This was exactly what I'd envisioned when first walking through the property. Not just owning walls and floors, but creating a space where connections flourished. The path with my family remained more complicated, marked by tentative steps forward and occasional retreats. Natalie had been the first to truly breach the divide, visiting initially without her husband and children, almost secretively, as if testing whether these new waters were safe. "This is really beautiful, Justine," she'd admitted, running her hand along the original woodwork. "I can see why you fell in love with it." That first visit had led to others, eventually including Troy and the children. Watching her 5-year-old son, Jack, race through the backyard, building fairy houses beneath the oak tree while her daughter, Emma, arranged pebbles along the garden path, healed something in both of us. "They love coming here," Natalie confessed during her third visit. "Jack asked yesterday if we could move to a house with pretty windows like Auntie Justine's." Mom had established a routine of visiting for coffee on Wednesday mornings when Dad was at his weekly physical therapy appointment. These visits began awkwardly, with Mom perched at the edge of the sofa as if afraid to fully occupy the space. Gradually she relaxed, eventually helping me select curtains for the living room and suggesting placement for family photos. "I brought something for you," she said one Wednesday, pulling a small box from her purse. Inside lay Grandma's china teacup and saucer, a family heirloom I'd admired since childhood. "It belongs here now, with you." The gesture acknowledged something important. That this house, despite its difference from our family's previous homes, was now part of our shared history. Adam maintained the most distance, responding sporadically to texts but declining invitations to visit. Our relationship had always been the most tenuous, his resentment of my academic achievements dating back to high school. Still, small shifts emerged. When he needed help creating a resume for a job application, he called, rather than asking Mom to relay the request as he would have previously. "The place looks nice in the background," he commented during our video call, noticing the built-in bookshelves behind me. "You always did have an eye for that stuff." Coming from Adam, this qualified as effusive praise. Dad remained the final holdout. He had not stepped foot in my house, though Mom reported he asked questions about it after her visits. The birthday card with the home improvement store gift card had been followed by a Christmas card signed with just his name. No message. These small acknowledgments offered hope without resolution. Healing came from unexpected directions. I joined the neighborhood association and volunteered for the community garden project, planting roots of a different kind. These new connections provided perspective on my family's situation, as neighbors shared similar stories of achievement, creating complicated ripples through family systems. "My father didn't speak to me for 2 years after I got my doctorate," confided Maria, a professor who lived 3 doors down. "He had an 8th grade education and felt my degree was somehow a criticism of him. Took time, but eventually he came around. Sometimes people need space to adjust their vision of you." The most significant shift in my thinking came through therapy, a step I took 4 months after the failed family gathering. Weekly sessions helped me untangle complex emotions around success, family loyalty, and identity. "Your achievement doesn't diminish anyone else's worth," my therapist emphasized during a particularly difficult session, "and their discomfort with your success isn't something you need to fix by becoming smaller." This perspective freed me from the guilt that had shadowed my accomplishments. I began celebrating milestones openly, a major promotion at work, completing the front porch restoration, without immediately calculating how these successes might be perceived by my family. 9 months after moving in, an unexpected text arrived from Dad. "Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone handling that?" The message contained no warmth, no personal connection, yet it represented something monumental: concern for my home's maintenance, acknowledgement of its importance, and perhaps an oblique offering of practical knowledge. "I got quotes but haven't scheduled anyone yet," I replied carefully. "Any recommendations?" His response came surprisingly quickly. "Those companies overcharge. I could take a look next weekend if you want." My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance. When I called Mom to confirm, she admitted Dad had been contemplating this offer for weeks, working up the courage to extend this olive branch in the only way he knew how. The following Saturday brought the surreal sight of my father's truck in my driveway. He emerged wearing work clothes, nodding curtly as if arriving for any ordinary job rather than his first visit to his daughter's home. Mom accompanied him, her nervous smile revealing the significance of this moment. "Nice place," he offered gruffly, assessing the exterior with professional detachment. "They don't build them like this anymore." Coming from Dad, this constituted high praise. I gave them the tour I'd planned 9 months earlier, watching Dad's eyes widen slightly at the craftsmanship of the original woodwork, and Mom's fingers trail across the kitchen countertop she'd only seen in photographs. In the backyard, Dad examined the gutters while I held the ladder. The familiar routine of working alongside him, passing tools and following directions, bridged some of the distance between us. "You did good, Justine," he said quietly as we packed up his tools. Not "I'm proud of you" or "I'm sorry," but an acknowledgement of my achievement that cost him something to give. I accepted it for the monumental concession it represented. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint my garden in golden light, I reflected on the complex journey of the past year. The house that had initially seemed to fracture my family connections now offered a different kind of foundation, one where authentic relationships could potentially be rebuilt, brick by careful brick. I realized home wasn't just about the physical space or the financial achievement it represented. Home was creating a place where I could be my authentic self while keeping doors open to the people who shaped me, however complicated those relationships might be. The path forward wouldn't be simple or direct. Some wounds would take years to fully heal if they ever did. But sitting there watching shadows lengthen across my garden, I felt peace with the knowledge that true success includes honoring your journey without apologizing for how far you've traveled.